Picture this. A man spends years in a relationship trying to meet his partner's every need, being present emotionally and constantly giving his attention to her. Yet despite his efforts, something feels off. He notices that no matter how much he invests, she seems less attentive, less interested, and less respectful. The more he focuses on her, the further away she seems to drift. This scenario is all too familiar in modern relationships. It's a reality that many men face but don't understand. Women often lose respect when a man gives too much of himself away emotionally without maintaining boundaries or a sense of independence. It's a paradox. Men believe that by constantly showing their care and attention, they will earn a woman's respect. But in reality, the opposite often happens. This is where the concept of detachment comes into play. Freedom doesn't mean emotional neglect or walking away from your partner. It's about retaining your sense of self, your boundaries, and your individuality, even within the context of a relationship. It's about not losing sight of who you are in the pursuit of her approval or affection. When you can maintain this healthy detachment, something powerful happens. You stop chasing validation, and in turn, you attract respect. In this lecture, we will explore why detachment is essential for earning a woman's respect, how it works in real-life scenarios, and how you can apply this principle in your relationships without sacrificing emotional connection. Detachment isn't about playing games or being cold. It's about establishing your value and showing that you have your own life, your own goals, and a strong sense of self-worth. By doing so, you create an environment where respect thrives. Number 1. The psychology behind detachment and respect. In relationships, we often think that giving more of ourselves, our time, attention, and emotions will make our partner respect us more. But in reality, this can backfire. When a man becomes overly focused on his partner and overly available to her, it can create a sense of dependency. This is where detachment plays a crucial role. At its core, respect in relationships is tied to a person's strength and independence. When a man is too emotionally invested and constantly seeks validation from his partner, it can make him a needy, and no one respects someone they feel is dependent on them. The psychology behind this is simple. People are naturally drawn to others who have their own lives, passions, and independence. When a man shows that he has his own identity and doesn't revolve around the relationship, he becomes more attractive and respected. Detachment doesn't mean neglecting or emotionally abandoning your partner. It means maintaining your own sense of self. When a man is emotionally detached, it doesn't mean he doesn't care, but rather that he isn't reliant on his partner for happiness or emotional fulfillment. This sends a message that he is his own person, which automatically increases his respectability. Psychologically, people respect those who appear strong and self-sufficient, and a man who can stand firm on his own without constantly seeking reassurance is seen as someone who can handle challenges and maintain his integrity. Detachment also means having healthy boundaries, knowing when to give and when to focus on yourself. This balance is key to gaining respect. In relationships, a woman often loses respect for a man when she perceives him as being emotionally needy or constantly at her beck and call. This is a pattern many men fall into without realizing it. The more they give, the more their partner can take, and the less she appreciates or respects them. However, when a man practices emotional detachment, he keeps a part of himself reserved. He maintains his own goals, hobbies, and identity, which in turn makes his partner respect him more. It's important to note that detachment doesn't mean being cold or distant. Instead, it's about not giving up your entire emotional world for the sake of the relationship. It's about having confidence in your value and not seeking constant approval from your partner. When you detach in a healthy way, your partner sees you as someone who is strong, self-sufficient, and worthy of respect. In summary, Detachment is key to building and maintaining respect in a relationship. It shows that a man is emotionally independent, secure in who he is, and does not need his partner to validate his worth. This type of emotional strength naturally leads to a higher level of respect, creating a healthier and more balanced dynamic in the relationship. Number 2. The trap of overcommitment. Let's break this down with something that happens in relationships all the time. The overcommitted guy. Think of a man who is constantly checking in with his partner, prioritizing her needs, and essentially making her the center of his world. The answer to her calls immediately shifts his plans to fit hers and sacrifices his own time and desires just to keep her happy. It might seem like the right thing to do, but here's the catch. It often backfires. When you overcommit yourself emotionally and constantly place your partner above everything else in your life, something subtle but dangerous happens. You lose your value in her eyes. Why? Because by being overly available, you're essentially sending a message that you don't have much going on in your own life. Your world revolves around her. This gives the impression that you're too easy to access or that you don't have your own ambitions and goals. Respect, especially from women, is built on the idea that you're valuable because you have your own life to live. We've all heard the phrase, "Give a woman space and she'll come to appreciate you more." And that's not just a cliche. When you give her room to miss you, it triggers a natural longing and desire. The key to attraction and respect is not being there all the time, but being able to step back when necessary. That's where detachment comes in. If you're always there, always available, it might seem like you're doing everything right, but this leads to a lack of challenge, which is essential for a relationship to thrive. When there's no challenge, the relationship can feel stagnant, and your partner may begin to take you for granted. Over time, this lack of challenge can lead to a decline in respect. If she doesn't see you as someone with boundaries or a life of your own, she won't value your time and attention. A real-world example. Think about when you first met your partner. In the beginning, you probably weren't as emotionally available. You were living your life, pursuing your goals, and maybe even making time for friends and hobbies. During this phase, you were more mysterious, harder to read, and yes, less available. And guess what? She was likely more intrigued, more interested, and more invested in getting to know you. That's the magic of detachment. When you stop chasing and stop being available all the time, you naturally increase your worth. You create an environment where she has to come to you instead of the other way around. This creates a healthy dynamic in which both partners value each other's time and emotional energy. It forces her to respect your boundaries and the fact that you have your own life. The overcommitted guy often falls into a routine of giving, believing that if he just does more, he will earn respect. But in reality, it's the opposite. By constantly giving, he loses his value. Respect comes when a woman sees that you're emotionally independent, strong, and can stand on your own, not when you're always scrambling to please her. So how does a man avoid falling into this trap? The answer is simple. Start setting boundaries. Make time for yourself. Pursue your own interests. And don't be afraid to say no or take a step back. This will show your partner that you have your own life and your own value, and it will naturally increase the respect she has for you. Remember, being too available may feel like love, but it often comes across as desperation. Irrecent isn't about being cold or distant. It's about keeping your own life, maintaining boundaries, and making sure your partner sees you as someone with value outside of the relationship. That's the real secret to earning respect. Number 3. Women don't respect desperation. Let's call it what it is. Desperation kills attraction. Every time. No exceptions. And the worst part, most guys don't even realize when they're doing it. They think they're being sweet, committed, or romantic. But what she sees is a man begging for approval. And that's the fastest way to lose her respect. Let's break this down. You start off cool. You're in your zone, focused. She's into you. But then something shifts. You start liking her more. You want to make it work. So you double your effort. You text more. You chase harder. You rearrange your schedule. You prioritize her every mood. You're not acting from power anymore. You're acting from fear. Fear of losing her. Fear of rejection. Fear of being alone. And that fear leaks out in everything you do. She senses the neediness behind every message. She sees you trying too hard to keep her happy. She feels the pressure and starts pulling away. Not because she's cruel, but because something about your energy no longer feels strong. It no longer feels secure. Women respect strength, emotional groundedness, the ability to hold your own regardless of how she feels that day. But desperation, it says the opposite. It screams, I'm not okay without you. And no woman wants the burden of being someone's emotional oxygen. When a man is desperate, he gives off a subtle message. Please validate me. Please choose me. Please fix the hole inside me. No, that energy drains her. She doesn't feel pulled in, she feels pushed away. Because here's the truth. Respect doesn't come from giving more. It comes from needing less. The more secure you are in yourself, the more relaxed she feels around you. You don't flinch if she takes longer to reply. You don't panic if she seems distant one day. You don't build your sense of worth around how much attention she gives you. And that's what pulls her in. Women want to be chosen by a man who doesn't need to choose them. They crave attention from someone who's whole without it. That's what makes it valuable. That's what makes it real. Think about the guys who always seem to get women's attention without trying. They're not desperate. They're not waiting by the phone. They're not trying to win her. They're just living, in purpose, in rhythm, in strength. And that contrast between your calm and her emotional highs, it builds attraction on a deeper level. Now here's the shift. Stop trying to prove you're worthy. Stop treating her attention like it's gold. Start treating yourself like the prize. Not in arrogance, in grounded confidence. You don't earn respect by chasing it. You earn it by embodying it through how you carry yourself, how you react under pressure, and how willing you are to walk away if your standards aren't met. You are not here to beg. You're here to build. And if she can't respect that, then let her go. Because the man who knows his value doesn't chase approval. He attracts it. Comment below, I don't chase. And stay with me, because next you'll see exactly why being strategic, not emotional, is what actually earns her long-term respect. Number 4. Why strategy over impulsiveness earns respect. Let's get something clear. Impulse is weakness. Strategy is power. And women feel the difference. You might think acting fast, reacting strong, and always showing how you feel makes you seem authentic. But in her eyes, it just makes you look out of control. She doesn't want a man who reacts. She wants a man who chooses. That's the difference between boys and men. Boys react. Men calculate. And nothing kills respect faster than emotional chaos. Think about it. She pulls away slightly, and you flood her inbox. She takes longer to text, and you write a paragraph. She seems off, and you spiral. That's not love. That's addiction. You're not acting from confidence. You're trying to regain balance by trying to control her behavior. But when you move like that, what you're really showing is this. You control how I feel. And that's the moment you lose power. That's when she starts to pull back. Because now she sees she can shake you. Here's the thing. Women don't test you to hurt you. They test you to measure you, to feel your weight as a man. If every time she moves, you flinch, she can't relax into you. Because deep down she's wondering, if he can't hold his center around me, what happens when life gets harder? That's where strategy comes in. When you operate with strategy, you don't react on emotion. You observe. You adjust, you decide, you see the patterns, you understand timing, you understand silence. You know when to speak and when to let space do the work. That stillness, that control, that's Stoicism in action. It's not cold, it's calculated. It's you saying, I will not lose myself in this. I move with purpose. Let me give you an example. Let's say she starts pulling away. Most guys panic. They go harder. More texts, more plans, more affection. Trying to fix something that isn't theirs to fix. You lean back. You let her energy speak. You don't punish. You don't pursue. You wait. You watch. You hold your frame. Suddenly, she's not just reacting to what you say. She's responding to the silence you didn't fill. That's strategy. You're not trying to control her behavior. You're mastering your own, and that's what earns respect. Not because you're playing games, but because you're playing the long game. And that's attractive in a world full of short-term men. Because let's face it, anyone can fall in love fast. Anyone can get emotional. Anyone can send 5 drunk texts at 1 a.m. But it takes discipline to pause, to feel everything and act on almost nothing, to move when it matters and be still when it doesn't. That's what she remembers. That's what makes you different. When she expects reaction, but gets presence. When she pushes and you stay grounded. When she disappears and you don't chase. Now you become the one she respects. Not because you tried harder, but because you stayed calm longer. If that hit something real for you, just comment, I move with purpose. And don't stop here. What's coming next might just change the way you see everything you've been doing until now. Number 5. The shift from neediness to respect. Every man has felt it. That gut-wrenching need to be seen, to be wanted, to be chosen by her. And when it's not returned the way you hoped, you start reaching. You become too available, too forgiving, too eager, all in the name of love. But what you're really doing is trading your power for attention. Let's make this clear. Neediness is not love. Neediness is fear wearing a romantic mask. Fear of being alone. Fear of not being enough. Fear that if you don't try harder, you'll lose her. And the more you act from that fear, the less she respects you. Not because she's cruel, but because something inside her no longer feels anchored to your energy. Women don't respond to men who orbit them. They respond to men who stand rooted, men who could walk away if they had to. That shift from neediness to respect doesn't start with her. It starts with you. It starts the moment you stop trying to win her back and start working on never abandoning yourself again. Let's look at this like a pendulum. On one end, you've got emotional dependency. You base your mood on her replies. Your confidence rises and falls with her validation. You give endlessly, hoping she sees your worth. You apologize for things you didn't even do just to keep the peace. And slowly, you lose yourself. She doesn't see a man anymore. She sees someone trying to be whatever she needs. That's not attractive. That's exhausting. Now, shift the pendulum. You center yourself. You stop apologizing for wanting more. You start saying no. You don't chase. You don't explain. You don't beg. You still care, yes. But you care about yourself just as much, if not more. You start taking long pauses before reacting. You create space between stimulus and response. You hold your line, even when it's uncomfortable. And guess what happens? She starts leaning in. She starts watching you more closely. She starts feeling that subtle gravitational pull again, the one that vanished when you made her your son. Because here's what nobody tells you. Respect grows in boundaries, not in access. The more she sees that you can hold your space, the more she feels safe respecting you. Not because you're playing a role, but because you're finally being a man instead of proving one. This doesn't mean being cold or distant. It means being real. It means being willing to lose the relationship, but never lose yourself again. Let me give you a quick example. Tom, average guy, madly in love, did everything for her, answered every call, paid every bill, lost sleep, skipped workouts, said yes to every request. She left anyway. Why? Because he gave her everything, except a reason to admire him. 6 months later, he's different. New job, better posture, quiet confidence. He's not angry, he's focused. He stopped needing her to validate him. And when she called again, he didn't jump. He listened. And for the first time, she respected his silence more than she ever respected his effort. That's the shift. When you go from needing love to embodying it, from chasing connection to standing in alignment, from please love me to I'm already enough. And if that shift hit home for you, drop this below. I don't chase love. And stay close, because what comes next will flip everything you thought you understood about emotional attraction and put the power back where it belongs. Number 6. How detachment creates intrigue and respect. Let's talk about one of the most misunderstood forces in male power, detachment. Most guys hear that word and immediately think cold, disconnected, game playing. But that's not what real detachment is. Real detachment is quiet strength. It's not pretending not to care. It's actually being okay, no matter how things play out. And when a man truly embodies that energy, he becomes magnetic in a way that words can't explain. Here's why. Most people, men and women, operate on emotional reflex. They push, they pull, they panic, they chase. It's a cycle of constant reactivity. So when you show up differently, calm, composed, unfazed, it triggers something inside her. She starts asking, why doesn't he need me like the others do? What's going on in his mind? Why is he so still? That's intrigue. Not from manipulation, but from presence. See, when you detach, you create space. And space is where desire breathes. Let me explain. When you're always there, texting fast, always available, always responsive, there's no mystery. There's no weight behind your presence. You become predictable, and that kills tension. But when you give her room to feel your absence, when you stop over-explaining, over-texting, over-giving, she starts to wonder, and wondering is where attraction begins again. Here's a truth most guys ignore. You don't need to be loud to be unforgettable. You just need to be grounded. Because detachment doesn't push her away, it pulls her in, if it comes from authenticity. And that's the key. Fake detachment is obvious. It's performative. It's forced. She sees right through it. But real detachment, it's when you're so focused on your own mission, your own values, your own growth, that her attention is welcomed but not required. That's when she starts thinking about you. Not because you're blowing up her phone, but because you're not. She starts feeling that void. Not because you're punishing her, but because you've stopped filling the silence. And that's when respect comes in. Because now, you're not chasing her energy. You're holding your own. You're not responding emotionally to every shift in her tone. You're observing. Calm, strategic. That kind of self-possession? It's rare. It's respected. And yes, it's sexy. Now, let's be clear. Detachment doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you don't let what you feel control what you do. It's emotional discipline. It's choosing not to collapse into her frame, even when the emotions are strong. It's being able to walk away without drama when you know your standards are being crossed. That calm distance, it creates contrast. And in a world full of loud, needy, reactive men, you become unforgettable through your silence. Because you're not chasing approval. You're not trying to get her to feel something. You're simply being a man she has to step up to reach. And that flips the entire dynamic. Suddenly, she's leaning forward. She's asking deeper questions. She's watching your moves more closely. Not because you forced it, but because you created the room for it to happen. And that's what real power looks like. If this shift in energy speaks to where you are right now, comment, "I hold the frame," and stay close. What we're about to touch on next will show you how detachment doesn't just attract her, it rebuilds how you see yourself. Number 7. How detachment boosts self-respect and attracts respect. There's a moment every man hits when he realizes the real battle isn't with her, it's with himself. You think you're trying to earn her back. You think if you say the right thing, wait long enough, or show how much you care, maybe she'll see your value. But here's the truth. Until you see your own value, nobody else will. Detachment isn't about pushing people away. It's about pulling yourself back to center. And that's where self-respect lives. Because every time you lower your standards to keep someone around, every time you stay silent to avoid rocking the boat, every time you abandon what you believe in just to be accepted, you chip away at the foundation of your own power. You tell yourself, "It's okay, this is just love." But it's not love, it's fear. And fear makes you shrink. Detachment changes that. It teaches you that peace isn't found in her reply, her approval, or her attention. It's found in your alignment with yourself. When you choose to step back not to manipulate, but to protect your integrity, you start rebuilding something deeper than attraction. You rebuild trust in yourself. You stop checking your phone like a prisoner, waiting for permission to feel okay. You stop rehearsing conversations in your head just to be understood. You stop obsessing over what she thinks and start asking what you think. That's the power of detachment. It clears the noise. It reminds you who you were before you forgot, before you made her opinion louder than your own voice. And slowly, your posture changes. Your energy settles. You stop chasing moments and start choosing them. And she notices. Because a man who respects himself moves differently. He's not rattled by rejection. He doesn't try to prove his worth. He's not here to audition for her affection. He's grounded, and that groundedness, that self-contained confidence, that's what makes people, especially women, look at you differently. Respect flows in when you stop performing and start embodying. Here's the wild part. Most men think detachment will make them colder, but the opposite happens. You become warmer, because you're no longer operating from fear. You're not guarding, clinging, or pleasing. You're just present with nothing to lose, because your peace doesn't depend on anyone else. That's where charm lives. That's where quiet magnetism begins. Not in trying, but in being. Let me put it this way. A man who needs nothing becomes the one who attracts everything, because energy doesn't lie. When you're full, you stop begging. When you're stable, you stop proving. When you're centered, people come to you not because you demanded it, but because your self-respect silently commands it. This is why Stoic men are so respected. It's not because they're emotionless, it's because they're unshaken. Life doesn't throw them off course. Rejection doesn't make them spiral. They feel everything, but they react to almost nothing. And in that steadiness, you don't just gain respect from others, you regain it from yourself. So if you've been caught in that loop of overthinking, overgiving, overchasing, take the pause. Detach, not to win her back, but to win yourself back. If that's the man you're becoming, say it below. I choose my peace. And keep watching, because soon we're going deeper into the kind of quiet power that makes her feel your presence, even when you say nothing at all. Number 8. Emotional distance makes you sexually magnetic. Let's talk about something that flips the script for most men. Being emotionally available all the time doesn't make you more attractive. In fact, it can do the opposite. Here's why. Most guys think that if they express everything, constantly reassure, and stay endlessly open, they'll win her heart. But that kind of constant emotional exposure, it actually dulls the edge that creates attraction. Think of it like this. Sexual energy thrives in tension, in contrast, in mystery. And when you pour everything out at once, when there's no restraint, no pause, no silence, you remove the very friction that fuels desire. Now, I'm not saying be cold. I'm saying hold your space. Don't offer up your entire emotional world the second you feel something. Let her feel your warmth without fully accessing your core. That distance, the sense that there's more to you than what's on display, it makes her lean in. It makes her curious. It makes her feel pulled toward you, even when she doesn't know why. Because deep down, women are drawn to men they can't fully figure out, not because they want confusion, but because they want discovery. And emotional distance, when done right, keeps discovery alive. Let's go deeper. When you're emotionally distant in the right way, you're not avoiding intimacy. You're choosing when and how to open up, not dumping everything out impulsively. You're in control of your emotional rhythm. You don't overshare out of anxiety. You don't confess things hoping to be understood. You speak when it matters, and your words carry weight. That's sexy. It creates an emotional polarity that's hard to resist. She feels your depth, but she can't predict your next move. She knows you care, but she doesn't feel entitled to your every feeling. That tension, it's what keeps her awake thinking about you. Because here's the truth. A man who's fully grounded in himself doesn't need to constantly explain how he feels. He expresses himself in energy, in presence, in action. And that kind of emotional control reads as power. And power, in the feminine psyche, is sexually magnetic. Now contrast that with the man who overshares out of insecurity, who tells her everything, every time, hoping it will pull her closer. It won't. It often pushes her away. Not because feelings are wrong, but because unchecked emotion feels unstable. And women don't trust instability. They're drawn to it briefly, maybe, but they don't stay there. What they stay for is this: a man who can feel deeply, but still holds his frame. A man who can sit in silence and not fill it out of fear. A man who doesn't rush to fix the vibe, but lets things unfold on his time. That's emotional distance done right. That's masculine energy in stillness. That's the kind of presence that lingers long after you've walked away. So don't be afraid to hold back sometimes. Not to play games, but to let the fire build. If you've felt that shift in your own presence, drop it below. I create tension, and don't go anywhere. Because what's coming next will explain why silence, not words, is sometimes the most powerful move you can make. Number 9. Silence creates space for her obsession. Silence. The one move most men are terrified to make, but the one that turns everything around when used right. Let's get real. When things feel off with a woman, maybe she pulls back, gets cold, goes distant. Most men respond with noise. They text more. They explain. They ask, "Are we okay?" They try to fix something they don't even fully understand. And what happens? She pulls away even more. Not because she hates you, but because you just proved you're not grounded. You just told her, with your actions, "You control how I feel." But silence is a different language. It speaks strength. It speaks certainty. It speaks boundaries. And most importantly, it creates space. And space is where obsession begins. Let me explain. When you go silent, not to punish, but to return to center, you break a cycle. You stop feeding the dynamic where she knows you'll chase, fix, overfunction. And suddenly, she's left with herself, her own thoughts, her own doubt, her own curiosity. Why hasn't he reached out? Is he done with me? Was I wrong about him? This is where her mind starts working for you. Because obsession doesn't grow from comfort. It grows from absence, from contrast, from the subtle, powerful feeling of, "I'm not sure where I stand with him anymore." That's what your silence gives her. It gives her the void she needs to feel your weight again. You don't need to explain. You don't need to defend. You don't need to check in just to make sure. You just need to pause. Not from resentment, but from clarity. not to play games, but to stop being one. Here's the truth. A man who stays silent when he could have lashed out. A man who takes distance instead of begging for closure. A man who simply steps back without announcement. That man makes her reevaluate everything. Because silence is power. It shows you trust yourself more than you need a reaction. And that self-trust, it changes how she sees you. It removes the emotional noise. It lets her energy speak. It flips the entire dynamic. Now she's the one replaying things. She's the one noticing the empty space where you used to fill every moment. She's the one wondering, why does his silence feel louder than another man's attention? Because here's the paradox. The less you say, the more she feels. Not every silence will bring her back, but every silence will bring you back to your calm, your clarity, your self-respect. And that's the whole point. When she reaches out again, and she often will, it won't be because you chased her. It'll be because you finally gave her the room to miss you. If you felt the power of holding silence, say it now. I let space speak. And don't blink. Because next, we're walking into the mindset shift that flips the script completely, the edge she never saw coming. Number 10. You become the prize when you walk away. There's one moment in a man's life that changes everything. It's not when he wins the girl. It's not when he gets the reply. It's not when she says she finally understands him. It's when he walks away. Not out of anger, not to make a scene, but because he finally sees his own worth. That's the moment he becomes the prize. See, most men are trapped in this quiet desperation, trying to prove they're good enough, trying to earn love that keeps slipping through their hands, trying to fix things that were never theirs to fix in the first place. They stay too long. They talk too much. They give too deeply, hoping it'll be noticed, but it rarely is. Why? Because when you're always available, always forgiving, always explaining, you stop being valuable. You become predictable. You become safe, yes, but forgettable. Now here's the twist most men don't see coming. When you walk away, you don't lose her. You find yourself, and that changes how every woman sees you. Because most guys never leave. They linger. They keep the door cracked just enough. They wait for her to come around. They call it hope, but it's really fear in disguise. But the man who closes the door, who says, I'm done negotiating my value, who stops explaining, stops chasing, stops clinging, that man shifts everything. Because suddenly, you're no longer the one trying to be chosen. You're the one choosing. And that's magnetic. Because in the feminine mind, there's nothing more attractive than a man who doesn't need her to validate him. Let's go deeper. When you walk away not as a tactic, but from true peace, you reclaim every part of yourself you gave up. You stop asking, what does she think of me? And you start asking, what do I think of myself? You stop being the reaction. You start being the standard. You stop proving your love. You start honoring your boundaries. And suddenly, she sees it too. She feels the shift. The silence is different now. It's not empty, it's solid. Because it's not about punishing her. It's about protecting yourself. You're no longer playing to win her back. You're playing to stay aligned. And that alignment, that self-possession, that's what makes you the prize. It's not about who texts first. It's not about who shows up. It's about who brings peace to the room, who can walk away and still sleep soundly at night, who knows he gave what he could and didn't lose himself in the process. And look, walking away isn't easy. It hurts. It challenges every part of you that still wants to be chosen. But that pain, that silence, that distance, it's where you level up. You start building a life so full, so rich, so locked into purpose, that no relationship, not even the one you thought was it, can make or break your sense of worth. That's when you become the prize. Not because she says so, not because she comes back, but because you're no longer waiting for anyone to hand you your value. You already claimed it. If you feel that shift happening inside you, drop this in the comments. I know my worth. If you've made it this far, you're not just watching a video, you're on a mission. A mission to reclaim your peace, your power, and your presence as a man. This isn't about playing games or chasing approval. It's about embodying the quiet strength that commands respect without ever having to demand it. If that speaks to you, make sure you hit subscribe. This channel is built for men like you, men who choose clarity over chaos, and who are ready to master themselves before anything else. Thanks for watching.